50 FM 99.3 KNSI. Time for Taking You Home with VoigtJohnson Real Estate. You can hear it every Thursday morning at 7:23. Saturday morning as well at 7:50 here on KNSI. Be sure to start that home search with VoigtJohnson.com. Well, Heidi Voigt is in studio with us, as is Tina Saponiak. Ladies, great to have you.
Hello, thank you.
Well, where would you like to start this morning?
Well, I think that one of the things that has completely changed in our real estate environment and really saw this even before COVID hit, but kind of saw it really take off in the last couple of years is that we're experiencing in central Minnesota what I would call kind of a urban sprawl.
Sure.
Where we're seeing more and more people move to outlying areas, not just St. Cloud proper, but smaller towns, out to lakes, and leaving the more populated metro areas and finding our market to be attractive to them.
Is there like a demarcation line? Because I'm one of those people, right? I'm looking at houses, but I don't want a 30-minute drive.
Yeah, and I don't know that it is so much relative to commute anymore. It's not so much that. I do think that there is some of that. So I think that there would be probably two indicators of when I'm seeing people move to our area. One would be affordability, and that's what I first saw. I remember selling a home right here in St. Cloud, and it was a very, very nice home, large home. And right in that 300,000 price range, and this was probably 2019.
Okay.
And our buyer actually came out of Blaine for that home, and my first question is always like, hey, are these people relocating here for a job and that type of thing? And that was probably my first, no, this person is buying here because the affordability of this home is much more than they can get in the area that they're currently living, and they work from home.
Right.
And that was the first experience I had with that. I do believe with the increasing prices that we've been experiencing locally, you multiply that a couple of times as far as percentages, and that's what people basically south of probably Monticello are really experiencing. So some of the people that are landing in our area at this point are people that just outright can't afford to buy there, and the commute makes sense for them at that point. It makes more sense for them to drive to Maple Grove and work at the hospital there and perhaps live in Clear Lake or South St. Cloud because it's what they can afford.
I just realized I sounded like the world's biggest whiner when I said, I don't want a 30-minute commute time. You realize that if you live in the Twin Cities, a 30-minute commute time would be to die for.
Well, absolutely. I just talked to somebody in our office that had a client, and their spouse actually works in Maple Grove. They make approximately $14 more per hour in their job down there than they make here, and he works here, and so that commute makes complete sense for them. But the affordability of their house here is much more attractive. And I think that the affordability is probably a factor that applies on all levels, but we are definitely seeing people wanting to have that different kind of lifestyle. So we've seen more homes on lakes that people are giving up their home in a gated community down in the metro area, and they're moving out to the chain of lakes, which Tina has a real good glimpse of seeing those people come here, and they're working here. This is where they're making their home. What
does that do, though, to the average price of a home? Is that driving things up a little bit?
It definitely is, and that's what we've seen here. There's a very interesting statistic that we've been talking about in our office recently, and the median pricing of homes in the state of Minnesota has exceeded at this point 300,000. And the trajectory that you see that happen in all the different regions across the state, I think there's 11 different regions, that trajectory has changed, as far as what that price is. But if you look at all these different regions, the increase is pretty typical. Mm-hmm. You get to the central Minnesota region, which is, Stearns, Benton, Sherburne, Wright, and our area actually has gone over what the typical trajectory is at this point. So our median house price has increased here. I mean, I think like 3 years ago, I remember it being at $275, and we have gone over that mark at this point. So what it's done for local sellers is that the pricing has definitely increased for local sellers at this point. And, that will impact our buyers locally, but we are getting more people that are landing in our area, that are buying groceries here, that are buying cars here, that are part of our school systems. It's not a bad thing if you look at the overall picture.
I was just going to say, that sounds to me like everybody wins.
It is a good win-win situation, and I think the bigger thing for us to really, offer value from a real estate perspective is to coach people who are coming from those areas how you can win.
Yeah.
Because there's still that level of competition. I think it'd be great for, Tina to pitch in and just, talk a little bit about how you can have and gain a competitive advantage using a local lender here in the perspective of getting an offer accepted.
All right, well, Tina, let's do that. When it comes time to working with a local lender, and we kind of talked a little bit about this last week, right? The fact that local is so important.
Yeah, I think if you are moving to the area, you're in a multiple offer situation, many sellers are going to view your offer as more competitive, a better offer if you're using a local lender than an online lender.
How do you bridge that gap when you're talking to somebody, say, maybe from Blaine, or maybe it's even a southern suburb of the Twin Cities or whatever, and they've got this, no, I've got my big city lender, that's in their head. And not that I'm disparaging those big city lenders or anything like that, but how do you get them to maybe come on over to a local lender position?
Yeah, I think shopping around for a lender is really important, and I think a lot of our local lenders can be very competitive when they're meeting with people, and not only that, they just have really good products and options.
And they are welcoming, right?
Yes,
they make
absolutely.
people feel like, well, we want you in this community. Thank you for coming up here, making everybody's lives better. You know what I mean?
Right. And they're easy to get a hold of. They're happy to sit down with coffee and go over
Yeah.
options and talk through, all of the financing options, not just the straightforward products that some of the big lenders like to just push on
Yep.
people.
And it's like you said last week, they answer their phone on a Saturday if you need them.
Absolutely.
Kind of an
It's
important
amazing.
deal. Exactly right. All right, ladies, thank you for coming in today. And if people want to get more information, Heidi, would you just like them to call you folks over at VoigtJohnson Real Estate? Should they reach out to Tina? What would you like people to do?
Well, we like to have people obviously tap into whoever is going to suit their needs really, really well. I think that Tina offices out of Cold Spring, and her demographic there is going to be people that are looking for land, looking for small town living, looking for lake homes. That's kind of our expertise, and we really try to talent match. So, obviously you can reach us at VoigtJohnson.com, but I think for Tina today to share her information for people that are looking for that upcoming lake home, I'll have her share her
All right,
information.
Tina, one more time. Make sure that you give us your phone number, please.
Yeah, sure. 320-293-8849.
Very good. You have been listening to Taking You Home with VoigtJohnson Real Estate every Thursday morning, every Saturday morning here at K. If I could speak, I would. They pay me to do this. You have been listening to Taking You Home with VoigtJohnson Real Estate Thursday mornings at 7:23, Saturday morning at 7:50 here on KNSI. Remember, start that home search at VoigtJohnson.com. AM 1450, FM 99.3, KNSI.
Awesome.